Part 3. My name is 12Drawings. That's the name I go by. I'm in 12-step recovery, and I've done a series of drawings, but I'm just telling my personal story. My 12-step group had dwindled down to nobody. I often say I came to meeting after meeting reading the literature to the ceiling. That's how desperate I was. I was willing to come to an empty room with no experience, no strength, no hope, no body in it except me, and I had no other chance of surviving. But a relative sent me the it's called the Big Book Comes Alive. It is a long, sounds like a weekend kind of seminar by Joe and Charlie, and they are two very long sober alcoholics who are explaining why the solution to hopeless alcoholism, addiction, or compulsions is kind of hidden in plain sight in the pages of the AA Big Book. And I had certainly read it. I'd read it a lot, and I didn't really understand, but I was interested in what they might have to say. So they began by discussing the history of the author of the Big Book, and they went through kind of from a historical perspective where and when this book came to be, but eventually they began discussing the actual principles of 12-step recovery, which begin with the phrase, we admitted we were powerless. And I'm not going to repeat this. You can go to a website called 12drawings.com and click on the video tabs or click on the drawing sets and you'll see the drawings. So I'm not going to repeat everything, but this drawing that's on the screen right now was the result of me finding a 1934 Webster's dictionary, and its definitions kind of nudged me in the direction of rereading that old 1930s book, the AA Big Book, really almost like with fresh eyes. In other words, looking at it through what the definitions from that same era told me that I couldn't tell myself. And I really had one realization after another, that there was some depth to these steps. There was not just a surface meaning, but there were deeper meanings. And I went through them one by one, being led by this Joe and Charlie Big Book Comes Alive study. And I had I was still struggling. I was not sober, but I had kind of become more focused on what they were talking about than I was in the habit of focusing on my own hopeless situation. I was no longer thinking about ending my life. I wasn't understanding, truly grasping what they were saying, but I could tell that there was something in what they were saying that could save my life. And because it was a recording, I could and did re-listen to it again and again. I don't know how many times I've listened to that recording set. I didn't do it compulsively. I listened once and thought, well, there's some good information in there. And then maybe, I don't know, a month later, I said, I'm bored. I'll listen to that again. And I thought, wow, I didn't hear that the first time I listened. And, the third time I went through and I said, whoa, no, wait a minute. That wasn't in there the first time I listened. And I realized what was happening was the kind of old school approach to 12-step recovery was working on me one step at a time. I was actually changing, not overnight, not at all overnight, but one phase at a time, one stage at a time. I was actually becoming looking forward to finding out what the next step was rather than dreading it. And so again, out of respect for my time, I will move on to the next recording.